speaking. Public speaking is stimulating. Now, to some people who have I'll say a fear of speaking, it's just in itself, the idea of talking in front of a group of people is complete and total overstimulation because you are so nervous, so afraid. For some people, it is wonderful stimulation. So for example, your friends and coworkers who love to be up, who are always the first ones to volunteer to stand up and speak, love to be in front of a group, love to be telling stories, telling jokes, the first one to raise their hand and say, I'll give the team presentation. That is possibly because public speaking gives them a really good stimulation boost. It's what they really need. But for many of us as introverts, it might push us. And when we have a situation where we have excess stimulation, it impairs our attention and our ability to concentrate. So it's another way I think of it. I literally think of it as like I'm being thrown off balance, like I'm going to tip over. The sign, you feel tired. Of course, you feel distracted because there's that impairs attention and concentration. So you're thrown off. You don't feel like you're performing well. The reason this is more true for us as introverts, usually we're good at attention and focus. Even my friend here who claims that you have ADD, you still are good at attention and focus. And when we are overstimulated, since overstimulation attacks, so to speak, our ability to pay attention, that's where it hits us. It makes us distracted. It makes it harder for us sometimes when we speak. And what that means for many of us, we don't speak well in a way that what we call extemporaneously or off the cuff or on the fly. And we feel uncomfortable when people ask us to do too much of anything that feels like a formal presentation on the spot, because we're outside of our sweet spot. So we're outside of our optimal level of stimulation. That doesn't mean that we can't be successful in public speaking, because of course we can. Just now we know this, now we want to think about, okay, what to do about it, right? What to do about it. So here are some tips for us. They aren't necessarily all in order. I think I tried to put them in chronological order, but I don't think they are. So the first one, as you can guess, is to work with your sweet spot. Understand your sweet spot. I shared with you my need for 50-50, approximately. That's understanding my sweet spot. Do I ever violate the parameters? Absolutely, I do. I also try to understand exactly how long I can go where I'm out of balance before I have any kind of critical, feeling like I'm having any kind of breakdown. So work with your sweet spot. What that could mean is if there's a day where you have a big presentation, then the rest of that day, make it a quiet day as best you can. And I understand that there are, challenges in our professional environments that don't always allow us to do this. But try to make it a quiet day. Make it quiet up to the presentation and maybe even after the presentation. On days when if I have a day where I teach an 8-hour class, which I love doing, I usually have a quiet evening, 3 or 4 days in a row. And the last day, it's even more of a quiet evening. And there's a recognition that I may not have a lot of energy left to talk. That's the way it is. Don't try to wing it. Don't try to wing it. Some people can get up and make up a story and do a fabulous job. And in the book, I don't remember if we talked about this last week or not, there is an example of this going on in a speech contest in the book Quiet. Susan Cain tells a story about two people in a speech contest and how one of the speech contests is to stand up and see how convincing you can be with something that you don't really know about and see if people know if you're, I think it's called like truth or lie, seeing if you're telling the truth or lying. So many of us, that's not our thing. So don't try to wing it, which leads to the next two, which I'm saying the same thing 2 times in a row because I feel really strongly about it. Prepare and practice, practice and prepare. A challenge is that sometimes people who are nervous about speaking in public, they put it off. They don't practice. They just say, I'm not going to think about it until it's here. And for us, that's the worst possible approach, because now you're nervous, You're uncomfortable speaking. We tend not to be good speaking off the cuff or on the fly, and you're in front of a room full of people, and you don't know what to do. And what that does, unfortunately, is reinforces perhaps your inner belief that public speaking is bad and you're not good at it, and that simply doesn't need to be true. So you do want to go ahead and practice, practice, practice. And what I want to add to that is in a way that you don't sound robotic. Something I do, I'll share with you, I script, especially when I'm doing something new. I script about what I want to say. I don't write down every word because then I'm afraid I would read it and I would sound stiff. But you know what? You can start your first public speaking working off of note cards if you have to. I do a loose script. I know what I want to say and about when and about what topic and about what kinds of stories I want to share. And that really helps me feel prepared. And then something I've learned is that when I am in situations where I am being called upon to deliver something more than an answer, a mini presentation, if you will, quickly, I'm able sometimes to access the files in my head to pull from segments of things that I've already said before and to pull it together. And so to be honest with you, even when I'm speaking off the cuff, I'm not really speaking off the cuff. I'm pulling on materials I prepared other times for other things. When possible, work with smaller audiences because we have a comfort with a smaller, intimate group. When you can,